That is something too that I get approached all the time. It must be really sad to not remember your childhood, but how is it sad to not remember my childhood when I don't remember it? There's a couple memories that God gives me, I think, that are really neat, that most people that have their memory can't remember. I can remember and kind of confirmed it through my sister Sandy that I must have been under 2 years old, maybe 18 months or so, and my mom had me on the countertop of the sink and had my head over the sink edge and was using the sprayer to wash my hair. So I must have been under 2 years old. Another thing that I do remember is sitting on the front porch, and I must have been, I don't know, 7 or 8, maybe older, with our German Shepherd Daisy, and calling Daisy. And I remember her being underneath the porch and calling her, and Sandy and I out throwing frisbee. And every once in a while, God gives me memories, but they're just fleeting glimpses of my past. My mother was Dutch. She was from Holland, born in Holland. She was a very interesting lady. I would say she was a bit eccentric in a wonderful way. She was an artist. She was a um, cosmetologist. She had her own school for called the Epidermis, where she did skincare and she taught oil painting. Very neat lady. If grace was something that God definitely gave people who didn't ask to be saved or believe in Jesus, she would be one of those. My dad, he was really hard worker. Came over, well, his grandfather came over Ellis Island from Portugal, and my dad was born in New York in New Rochelle, White Plains area, and orchard gardener, more or less. They had greenhouses where they sold orchards. Became an insurance man, ended up owning his own insurance company, and they were really good. That, from what I remember, they always made a point to try to get us to do things together, go places. Again, from childhood, I don't remember, but I know my sisters always say it was a really decent time. And my dad would take me on the debit sometimes, and we would I'd go with him when he collected insurance premiums during the week in the summertime when I was off. So I think it was pretty good upbringing. Yeah.
How do you how do you feel like you would describe yourself at 14? Not just personality, but maybe along the lines of like your faith or like how you felt about like life at that time.
Well, 13, 14-year old was old time frame was interesting. I can't honestly say that I do think or thought anything about faith at the time. Um, it was the typical go with your friends, go out and have fun, ride skateboards, go look for things to do. Um, so it was a time of life where I was, I think, experimenting with friends and probably getting in trouble or doing things more that I shouldn't do. Then then I guess walking the straight and narrow. Donnie and I were riding around in TKK looking for just whatever to play with. There was an old dump area that had reels that wire would come on that you could flip over and make a table out of, like a tabletop. There was coaxial cable, all kinds of things to play with. So I think at that age, looking back, I don't know if I really can remember if it was dangerous. I'm sure I thought to some degree it was, but we were climbing up one of those power towers to go across the countryside. And at the end of the day, we wanted to pull the cable down that we're using for support. Just didn't want to leave it there for whatever reason.
Why in the world were you climbing a tower?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I'd love to go back into my brain and figure that one out. I guess because I could. I guess at the time is what we did. Yeah, that was it was pretty bizarre. You know, you didn't see a danger when you're climbing this large structure where the wires are way out to the sides, and there was pegs all the way down to the ground to climb up the thing. So I guess it was there, so we did it. At the end of the day, I guess I just felt compelled not to leave the wire on the tower, so I yanked and yanked and yanked on it. Next thing you know, the bolt of the electricity grabbed the cord that I was holding, and it went down and hit me standing on the ground. When the electricity went down the thing, it was instantaneously, of course, 180,000 volts. It instantly killed me. I'd lost my bowels. It threw me about 50 feet across the field, lit me on fire. Of course, third-degree burns from all down my chest. Electricity goes in one spot, and it'll find its easiest way to exit, which was in a finger here, and went straight down this right side of my body and blew out my shoe and the shoelaces, which was the path of least resistance. So it caught me on fire and it threw me, and I don't remember any of that, obviously because it stopped my heart instantly. Donnie, who was my friend that was with me, he came over there and started beating on my chest, I guess to put the fire out, because my flannel shirt was on fire, just fully engulfed in flames. And somehow when he did that, he got my heart started again. I just remember waking up on the ground and looking up, and he was looking down at me crying, frantic, just going, "Oh my God, man, you are so messed up. Oh my goodness." And I just remember laying there and just ringing sound. I could hear flames, stuff on fire around me. I could hear this whipping of this cord where I guess it was jumping around and lighting little fires here and there in the field. And I just remember trying to lift my arm, and the only thing that would work with it was this arm. So I would pick it up and it would fall down, and it was completely charred, just burned. And I think maybe it's those kind of things of childhood innocence where God takes a moment in time and he freezes it for a lesson to be learned or something to be gained. Because at the exact moment that I got electrocuted, there happened to be a security guard passing down one of the roads, and these were all deserted roads where houses weren't built yet. Now TUK is a town in Fort Mill, South Carolina. And he happened to see a flash, so he went down the road, and of course, I'm laying on the ground. Donnie's there with me. He calls the EMTs, and they come and they drag me out of the field there to take me to the hospital.
What was your parents' reaction to all of it?
My mother was tremendous, and so was my dad. But I just strongly remember coming to the hospital, being there, and I mean, my arm was just completely and underneath there was all just burnt so badly. The doctors telling her, "Look, I mean, we need to amputate his arm. Has such a small chance of survival right now as it is, and the chances of infection setting in would make it even harder." And I remember my mother adamantly saying, "No, you're not going to cut off his arm. He's going to keep it." So I remember her adamantly saying that, and them being just as adamant to say his chances are so slim of survival with the amount of burns he has now that's a high risk. And so she said, "No, I don't want it to happen." I remember with burn victims, they put you on a ward usually where other burn victims are on the same floor. And I remember there was a guy beside me that he had soaked down charcoals on a charcoal fire and didn't realize there was a hole in the grill, and it was soaking his pants with charcoal fluid. So when he threw the flame in there, it lit him up, and he couldn't get the pants off. The solid, the zipper or whatever, getting it off. So he was burned extremely bad. And I remember hearing people screaming. And I don't think I really thought about it until the first time they came in to do my dressings, because with burns, what they do is your body wants to heal instantly. So they cover it in what's like a cold cream and they wrap it in gauze, and they change that dressing every 4 hours. So 6 times a day they come in and change that dressing. So your ability to sleep or rest after a while is mentally challenging, because you know that in 4 hours you're going to come back in and change the dressings. And when they pull them off, the body has this tendency with the heat and the healing process to adhere to the bandages, and when they're taking them off, it's like ripping skin every time. So it was an interesting first month. I was losing, I think, 2 pounds a day in weight. There's no way to maintain any type of calories, because my all my body functions had shut down as far as basically needing a reset. I mean, I could hardly talk, speak. I couldn't hold any food down. Everything from my waist down other than this arm didn't operate like it used to. So I was basically having to learn how to redo all these, normal motor functions that we have that we don't even think about, are just natural parts of life. It was really a battle of that and time. Getting skin grafts. I was needing skin grafts, which they take off other parts of your body. A couple places on my arm here wouldn't take, and they'd taken them off both my legs, on my butt, on my back. And the process was just one I remember of just exhaustion all the time. Just always anticipating the next time they're going to come in to change dressings, your next surgery to have some more skin put on. And when they do that, the way they do it is they take a small piece of skin and it goes through like this cheese grater, which actually expands it and makes it larger. And then they staple it to your arm or your leg or wherever your graft is. It's not sewn on, it's actually stapled on. So if you picture like a piece of skin put over a raw, exposed, damaged skin, and they staple it on, and then they know eventually if it sticks or not after a couple of days, week or so. So a lot of those processes. In the meantime, I was trying to learn how to lift my legs just a little bit, learning how to speak normally again. Eating still wasn't happening, and I went from, I think, 135, 40 pounds down to 88 pounds. And it was getting to a point where if they couldn't get nutrition in me soon, it was just getting to a really bad point. My mother, during this whole time, which was interesting, in the whole time I was there in 45 days, she went home one time for a shower. That was it. She was there by my side morning and night, every day. My dad came when he could, of course, after work. A lot of cards from schoolmates and so forth. But so it was a pretty long time in the hospital trying to learn how to use things that you normally take for granted, I guess, every day of using. I would say the first time I was able to hold something down, I wanted to eat. I mean, I would see food, want to eat, but my stomach just had not. It's almost like everything was, the circuit breakers were turned off. I would try to eat food and it would come right back up. It wouldn't stay down. So finally, I remember eating a piece of pizza, I think it was, of all things, and it stayed down. And I started getting strength back because I was eating physical food, because I was needing, the amount of calories I needed a day, 15, 20,000 a day, just wasn't doable by IVs and such. I needed real substance to eat. So I think that was a turning point, that and starting to realize that my motor functions were coming back. And also, too, my skin grafts they were all sticking and healing. So it got to a point in the first part of April where my doctor said, well, do you want to go home? And I said, I'd love to go home. And I said, by my birthday, which is April the 14th. And he said, well, if everything continues to go like it is, I'll give you this tool. And what it was is a staple remover. He said, we'll take most of the ones out that we can get to, that you can't get to, but you take the rest of your staples out and you can go home. So that was interesting. But I started eating and was able to drink Gatorade and some other things, and started getting up, and they were exercising me to get a real bath versus a bath in the bed was something you take for granted when you don't bathe for a whole month, other than somebody taking a cloth or a little wipe around your hair or your neck. It's interesting, even at 14, when you would think we don't care about baths and showers. I think that was a relief. It seemed like that was a positive turning point. The hindsight was, which I never knew, was when the accident first happened. I do remember seeing a blinding flash of light, and to me, it was like a. I remember people asking me, "What do I remember? What do I remember?" And so I remember a gigantic, like pink cotton ball in my face, like a pink or yellow cotton ball, and for the longest time, none of it made sense. And then fast forward to the 80s or whenever the movie Flatliner came out with Kiefer Sutherland, which was a movie about young college kids who were intentionally stopping their hearts for a period of time to experience what afterlife was like, to where it hit me like a ton of bricks that it was what I truly believe now, because just hearing eyewitnesses and experiencing myself was, I think I was at a stage where it was like a bright light, I would say, whether it was from heaven or the preeminence of heaven, to where it was this bright light in my face, but it didn't hurt my eyes. But then I was all of a sudden back in the living, back to where, again, like I said, I was on the ground and Donnie was trying to put the fire out. And I think it was basically what I realized from that movie was, because I remember leaving that just almost in sweating bullets and having to get out of that theater, when the reality of it made me see, wow, that's what I had after, an after death experience of no pain. It wasn't pain. It wasn't pleasure. It wasn't anything bad or good. It was just this sense of time where I was just there in this extremely bright space and light, and then came back to, I guess, what people call the living, and was there. When I was young, my dad used to say, you can't eat a whale in an hour. So I think all my life I wondered or thought about that. You can't eat a whale in an hour. Okay, well, yeah, you can. And as I grew older, I realized what he was trying to tell me is literally, you couldn't eat a whale in an hour. It'd be something that takes time. You eat pieces at a time. And I think I sometimes say modern day Job. I feel like modern day Job, but yeah, a lot of interesting things have molded and shaped my life that made me realize that different moments and times that we go through in life are, I think, bits and pieces that make us who we are today. There are things that make us stronger if we look at the glass of milk half full, or they can make us bitter and weak if we look at it half empty. Um, I'm a strong believer, and I do strongly believe that we never have more than what we can bear. But I also think that God expects us to also use our common sense to make wise choices when they're presented to us, and make decisions that are for the benefit of all, not just for the benefit of us. So I think a lot of things that have molded my life or shaped my life came from experiences such as that. Cancer in 2011, chronic kidney stone, person with kidney stones, you name it. I think a lot of things have what I could say molded character within me.
Things like cancer that could have taken your life. How do you feel like you appreciate life more now from that?
Oh yeah.
Standing here now in your body.
Yeah, that's a great question. I have a lot of wish I could have. I think I wish I would have made a lot of other decisions differently, but I think we all do that. I think a lot of people don't make decisions in life because they're waiting for God to give them that aha moment, that voice thundering from the sky that says, take this turn or take that turn. And I don't believe God does. I believe that God allows us to make decisions from what we call wisdom, from making the best choice we can in life. And I think with health and where I stand today, I think there's choices I could have done better, but then I also just know that what path I took in some way was beyond my control, and other paths, I think I could have made wiser decisions, especially with my electrocution accident. I think that was something that honestly was never intended, or any thoughts of that ever happening when that day began. I can't worry over a single thing that's happened in the past or tomorrow that are going to change those outcomes. They're going to come, but I can change how I look at them and how I approach them. And I want to dedicate time to do something that I think everybody should, that's had experiences similar to mine, or of other like kind, shape, form, whatever, is to give back to the community, give back to hospitals, give back where you have been a survivor to help others who are in that position. I think about that all the time, how those who are sitting in a burn ward have no hope of ever going further than their next dressing change or the day after that, or how they're going to look, or how they're going to be when they're 5 years from now. You know what you need to do. You know where your strengths are, where your talents are. And I think we find excuses, we find reasons to why it's not the right time, it's not the right place. But those are all reasons and excuses that are things we got to overcome. So I would say that finding your space in life that can help build other people up, help strengthen their lives, or move people forward past stumbling blocks they're currently in is the way to go.